Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are here to talk about appearance and estimation in Jira boards. If folks in the chat could give me a quick thumbs up, though, that you can hear me, you might have noticed I'm in a new spot, and I have a bit of a new setup. So I want to make sure the audio is at least there. I don't have the full rig with me. We'll give folks a couple minutes to jump on in and join us. And then we'll jump on in as usual. We'll have a couple of slides, and then we'll jump back and forth between slides and Jira to get hands-on and see what this looks like. A slight echo.
Let me see if that fixed anything. Did that help at all? Unfortunately, there's not much I can do at this point. So hopefully that helped out at least a little bit. There's one other thing I can try. Nope, no more echo? Okay, I'll take the win. Thank you, Bailey. I appreciate that, my friend. Alright, got one more thing. Looks like to get set up if I can. I might not be able to make it work, which would be totally fine. Yeah, I'm not going to mess with it too much. I've got it mostly stable in a spot. Oh, that didn't fix it. Well, okay. Let me know if that helped at all. Okay, last change I'll try before we jump on in. Again, I'm kind of limited to what I can fix here. So hopefully this has had some impact. Do want to welcome you all, though. We're going to talk about appearance and estimation. So this is the last major piece of our ACA-905, or our board. I'll give folks just another minute or two, and hopefully Bailey tells me that the audio is now perfect and amazing. Perfect timing. As soon as I said that, Bailey said it's perfect. I'm going to just stop touching things. All right, I need to remember for next time I've got an earbud in, and that's handling the audio. Hi, through. Good to see you, my friend. Now, I also can't pull chat up very easily right now, so apologies. I won't be able to highlight folks. But just a quick morning, Dom. Excuse me. All right, team, we are 3 minutes in. We are going to get started. Again, quick way of introduction. Many of you probably have been in here for a while. I'll drop a quick poll, actually, because I'm kind of curious. How many other ACA 905 sessions have you been in? And ACA 905, again, is the Jira board configuration certification. This is the fourth in a series of 5. Yes, I am somewhere not in my usual studio, so you'll notice some differences, like the background. And that's part of my background. I grew up on the East Coast. That's where I am now. Traveled to the West Coast, got into IT, and that's where I had most of my career. Now I'm very glad that I am able to do this from anywhere, which is pretty nifty. Again, most of you know me already. Been doing this since 2013. I'm here to help make sure that all of you have access to the tools and experience and expertise you need to do your job successfully. Our usual interaction, please use the chat. The chat's going to be the best way to get the most out of this session and any of my live sessions. You'll see folks in there helping me out, like Bailey, Rodney, and Dom already. but also use it to ask questions, use it to interact with each other, use it to share information. Don't wait for me to ask you something. If you want, just jump on in. Also, if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button for this video. That'll help other people find it, which is good because then other people can learn, but also kind of helps me out by letting YouTube know that this is good stuff. So take a minute, hit that like button, and I'll remind you as we go. Also, check out some of my learning courses down below. I'll talk more about that as we go, and I'll have an update on the ACA 905 course for all of you. So our agenda for today, we're going to be talking about board appearance and estimation. So what does the board look like to our team as they're using it, and what options do we as admins have? And then how do we handle estimating? And I'll talk about different ways of estimating. Um, and then we'll go back and forth between the concept, what are the terms and ideas and phrases you might see, and then going hands-on in Jira. And I see some more chat coming in. East Coast gang, yes, Rodney, I'm back on the east side, so to speak. Um, This QR code will take you to a Google form where you can sign up to get updates about the recorded course I'm doing for the 905. It will include all of this content and a lot more stuff. So I'll just drop that here. And I can't seem to chat, so this will be a fun time. But please use that link, that QR code, if you want to get more information about this 905 course. I've completed most of the filming, and it'll hopefully be available by next week in time for our review. So please be on the lookout for that. I'll include things as well like quizzes, practice tests, homework, so activities for you to go practice and do, just to expand your skills. So here is our exam. Again, you don't have to take the exam to get stuff out of this, but I am setting you up for success if you choose to take it. And we're focused on these last two pieces, the little bit about appearance and estimation. And again, this is what allows us to control both what it looks like. Sorry about that, Tushar. I've paused them. They should be stopping. Um, Allows us to change what it looks like, but then also determine how we can estimate our work. And that includes both, this will include both estimating through time or story points or other things, but also how we handle time tracking. They should be off, Tushar. Good friends at YouTube like money. Um, so our first question, does your team use estimation metrics? All right, looks like most of you have been to at least two of these with me, which is great, but one of you has not been to any, so welcome to whoever is new. Do you use estimation metrics? And this could be any kind. Now, in my experience, the groups I've worked with have all defaulted to things called story points. And they did this just because that's what they were expected to do. We did Agile, so we were told use story points. But I'm curious if other folks use them, and if you can share which ones you've used. Now, we'll come back to estimation, but first digging into that appearance chunk. Basically, it just controls how the board looks. And this may not seem like the most important thing. It's one of the smallest pieces of the exam, but it's still on the exam. And it is important because how things look and feel impacts how we interact with them. On this stream right now, it looks a bit different than you're used to. I maybe sound a bit different, and that changes your experience learning with me. In the same way, our team will change their experience working with our board if they can't find information they need, if it's just not visually appealing, if something is confusing. Now, that appearance can also provide information. And that's where Jira has a couple of options that we as admins can put additional information on the board that isn't available otherwise. The first of these is called card colors. Now, there are big differences between our company and our team managed projects in this case. Card colors appear on company managed projects, and they are the stripe on the left edge of the card. So you'll see these cards have like a purplish color on the left side. Oops, wrong way. That is the card color, and that can be used to indicate some kind of information. The work type, the assignee, the priority, a query that I'll talk about. Kythra uses story points. Yes. Oh no, Sean. I would pull this chat up, but I can't right now. But Sean is saying they use story points, but higher ups like to convert them to days. I will talk about why that's not the best idea later. Um, Finura uses hours. All right. Um, yeah, the story points thing is interesting because people naturally want to make it an hour or date or time metric, and it is not. Rodney, I like that metric. How many floors of stairs? The problem is, Rodney, I really enjoy walking up and down stairs, so I would be a terrible person to estimate based on number of floors of stairs. Now, these card colors, again, give us visual information. Personally, some of these I don't find as useful. For example, the priority appears on the card already, and it's this little equal sign that's medium. The assignee also appears on the card, and this is the headshot of whoever this person is. The work type also appears on the card. This little green thing tells me it's a story. So personally, I haven't used this too much, mainly because most of the information on here is already on here. Um, and I guess another kind of maybe rapid fire poll, but have you used card colors? Yeah, and I'm just asking because typically I leave this. I don't use the card color because I haven't found any personal utility in it other than it happens to exist. Now, the interesting bit of it is you have this feature called a query, and this also shows up in swim lanes where we can define what the colors mean. And so we'll do this live, but you can use JQL to say any tickets with a low priority have this color on the side. Any tickets with a high priority, different color. Any tickets that are from a certain country and from a certain organization get this color. Any tickets that have a certain label and a certain component. You can kind of see where I'm going, where if you can define through JQL a group of tickets you want to draw attention to, you can do that with the query. And so this could be useful if you have a custom thing or something that your team finds particularly useful. For example, if we're using Rodney's estimation metric, if we say something like, Rob would rather walk up over 20 flights of stairs, make the edge red, and if it's 15 to 20 flights of stairs, make it orange, etc., we could do that as well. Dom uses it to express if a work item is at risk. Interesting. Okay. There's another feature that might also do that. So we're going to pop into Jira and just see what this looks like. And of course, I'm in Confluence because that's where it always puts me by default. A quick reminder, if you enjoy this, please hit the like button right down below. Got about 25 folks and about 5 likes, which is beautiful. Now, again, these only appear in company managed boards. So I'm going to open up my mobile Cowboys. And under layout, I have card colors. Now, there's a number of options we get. We have work types, priorities, assignees, queries, and none. And you'll notice I don't have any work items in here, so I can pull them out. So if a priority isn't being used, I do have some ability to remove it, remove the card color. Now, if there are work items with that color, it'll be in here. And I can click to change these colors. So if I don't like the color that is super critical, I can change that. And the same goes for things like assignee. I can change the color of the individual. So we have some ability to control this. But again, for me, it's really interesting under queries because I can use JQL to say tickets of a certain type are going to be a certain color. Now, in Dom's example, I can just click add color, and my JQL might be something like, I don't have an at-risk field, but if at-risk equals yes, make it a certain color. Or if there's some combination of things that indicate it is at risk, it hasn't been updated in more than 2 days, it is of a certain work item type, and it was created more than 3 days ago, and making up examples, I can then make it this color. So it doesn't have to be a simple priority equals low to change the color. It can be just any type of JQL you want it to be to support your need. And it looks like most folks aren't using them so far. Um, Again, this feature to me, it's hard to see too. I'm going to go back to the board. And even if we look at the edge of the card, like I don't immediately notice that this one is pink and this one is orange. And that might just be my training. I haven't used it, so I don't see it. Um, but it's something that, again, I haven't found the best possible use case for. However, it does impact the look of the board. So if our team is struggling to find work items or if at-risk things are slipping, this could be a great way to call attention to and make sure people are aware of particular work items. Because it does give you that ability to put a stripe right down the side so folks can easily see it. Oop, and I'm going back here. Now, this is kind of a leading question, and I say that because I don't. But do you regularly check in with your team on how they think the system looks or feels? And I will promise to try to spell things correctly, or Kythra will come and get me. And I ask this question because in a system, there'll be many features and tools and things, but it's really not about the features. The important thing is, do they support our team? Do they help our team do their job? Do they help our team with whatever they're trying to do? And if we're not consciously going and talking to our team and saying, hey, team, does this do what you need? Hey, team, how can this be done better? We're leaving something on the table. We as admins need to do a little bit more. Kyther, I assume that tongue is about my spelling comment. Now, card colors are great. They're a little stripy thing on the side. The card layouts, though, are where for me it gets more interesting. Oh, Chad is in the house. If we were in a classroom, I would ask the class to all just silently watch Chad as he walked in and found his seat. Chad, it's good to see you, my friend. Chad is also one of my wonderful coffee sponsors. I have some delicious Beats coffee in my dad's mug right here. And it's another way to support the channel. I'll put a quick link if you're curious in becoming a sponsor, but you get early access to videos, you get some fun emojis. And when I see you, I'll buy you some coffee and get, because I want to meet you all. I'll also probably get coffee with pretty much anyone. I love coffee. The card layout lets us adjust what fields show up on the card. Now, we can't change everything about the layout, so it's a little bit of a misnomer. It's more like uh, card displayed fields or something like that. Someone needs to help me with wordsmithing. But it makes information easier to find. It allows me to add information to the card, so when someone's looking at it, they don't have to fumble around as much to go find a certain piece of information. And again, this is only on company managed projects. So our friends in the team managed side, you get an easier setup and an easier way to build out your project, but you also don't get some of these other things. Rodney, I am terribly sorry. Now, on this screenshot, there's a couple things you might notice. I put a red box around the field, but there are some interesting limitations and challenges that I see with card layouts. You get up to 3 fields, and you can have 3 fields on the backlog and 3 different fields on active sprints if you're in a Scrum board. Now, this is useful because it lets us, when we're in the backlog, we're more about planning, and we might want to see different information when we're planning than when we're doing our work. So we have the ability to split them. It can be different fields. It can be the same fields. The fields you select will depend on your team and how they want to work. Or maybe they depend on your team and the information they always forget to use or put in. So just keep in mind you can control which fields, and you can also control the order. So however you think they should be ordered, you can just click and drag. The biggest annoyance for me is the field name is not shown, only the field value. So in this case, I'm displaying priority. It'll just say low or medium or high or super critical or do this now, whatever the priority is. It won't say priority equals blank. Now, this means our team has to know what the fields are, because otherwise they're going to look at it and just see a number or a value. In some cases, it might be obvious. Again, if everyone knows our priorities are low, medium, high, and they see high, they know what that means. But in other cases, it could be confusing, or someone might just ignore it because they don't know what it is. There's no way for the person using the board to know what that field is, except just by knowing what that field is. Go with the ads. YouTube, you're killing me here, Smalls. They should be paused, Kythra. I will write a stern letter to my representative. Rodney, I will drink some coffee in your honor, my friend, and I hope your recovery continues to improve. Now, visually, we also have another, call it a field, piece of data, the days in column, and this shows up in the bottom right. It's just a visual indicator of how long a work item has been sitting in one column. This is the only place this information is available. Rodney, and I'm picking on Rodney because he is known as the Jira guy. He's been in Jira for ages, knows a lot about it. I don't think there's any way to get this information, the number of days something is in a column, except through this field. And this is just a visual indication, and it's up to 4 dots that change color. So in this case, you can mouse over it and see how many, but 1 dot is 1 day, and then it just keeps turning red. It stops at 4 red dots, so if it's in there 1,000 days, it's the same color. Uh-oh, and it looks like most of us aren't checking in with our team about how things look and feel. I will encourage you all to do this on some regular basis. It could be quarterly, it could be yearly, but please make sure you're talking to your team and getting feedback on, hey, how does the board look to you all? Because again, they're the ones using it. They're the ones struggling to figure out what the heck these red dots mean. So they might need some guidance, or you might be able to change things to help them. And again, I've mentioned these frustrations. The fields aren't named on the card if you use it. Um, and they have to be available in the project. So it's possible to add a field that's blank or non-existent, and that's just an annoyance as an admin. Rodney's mentioned Discord. I do have a Discord community going. It's for any kind of Atlassian knowledge share, not just ACA-905, but definitely worth checking in on. Rodney or Kythra, could you help me out and put a link, an invite link in there? And I'll see if I can dig one up too. You should just be able to go and type /invite and get one. One more request for help, though. We are nearing the end of our 905 series. I am very curious what this group thinks of how these series are going, but also what else you want to learn. So I've got a Google form, and that's where this QR code goes. I'll drop it in the chat. Just 4 questions on what you think of the study sessions, how we can improve them, what else we should do. And I also need some input on... sorry, Rodney, it's got to be in Discord. I also need some feedback on what ACA should be next. I'm trying to do one ACA and one ACP, the professional at a time, just to make sure there's always something going. So if you have a preference on which ACA to do next, please let me know. Or maybe it's /invites, Rodney, and I'll see what I can do. I have some ideas, but I want your thoughts. And a quick teleport back. Oops. I meant to do this. There we go. Oh, gotcha, Kyther. No worries. Hope you feel better. So here we are on our board, and I've turned on some of these fields. You can see on all these cards, there's the word medium or the word low. I happen to know that's the priority, and a number. That I happen to know that's the story points. If I mouse over these fields, it will show me the name. But if I just glance at the board, I just see the value of the field. So again, this can be annoying for folks who don't happen to know that that particular thing is the priority, or this other one happens to be the number of story points. I also have these dots that are growing, and this is a demo environment. So this particular card has been in this column for 1,476 days. So Jira is very angry with me. I'll have to find a better example. This one's been in there for 6 days in this column. And it's going to start turning red at 5 days because that's a long time for a work item to sit. Ideally, our team is working on things and adjusting and moving them. So visually, this is giving me some good information. In this bad example, it's telling me my coding in progress status is hanging things up because things have been trapped in here for like 3.5 years. So I'm going to want to go investigate what's going on with my team. To change, and I can't change the days in field. I can, however, change the fields that are displayed. So I have to go into my board settings, pop open my layout, and under card layout, I have this ability to control it. Now, again, I can have different fields displayed in my backlog than displayed on the board. I'm really still back. I'm sorry, folks. I've tried to pause the ads. I'm not sure what else I could do about them. Go yell at YouTube, please. It says they're paused on my end, so um, I can reorder them just by clicking and dragging. So if I want priority under story points, I can just do that. I can remove them, and then I can just add in a new field. Now, this will list every field in Jira, and this is where I have to be careful to select a field that happens to be available in this project. It doesn't let you send links. I'm sorry, Rodney. Like, make you a moderator or something. Yeah, give it a shot now, Rodney. I just gave you some superpowers. Maybe that does it. Um, Again, one pitfall is you may happen to pick a field that doesn't exist in this project, which is an annoyance that it's even displayed. So just be aware if that happens, it'll show up as blank or nothing's there. So if I go back to this board, I added chart first response to my backlog. It just says medium and none as the value. So in the backlog view, it's a little bit different. It shows underneath. But if the field has no value, it shows as null. And if the field doesn't exist in the project, it shows up as null. Ooh, I'm glad that worked, Roddy. Thank you for being a guinea pig in a live video with me. Kythra, I'm going to give you some superpowers too, just, because. Going back into my project and my board settings, I can turn off the days in column. And this is where feedback from my team is important. And I want to go to my team and say, hey, do these red dots at the bottom actually help you? And if they say no, just get rid of them. Or ask your team, hey, do you use these red dots? And if they say no, just get rid of them. It's the kind of thing where we want to unclutter as much as we can to help make sure folks have only what they need and only things that are useful. So this is where that feedback is important. And for all the folks who said no to this question, I encourage you to go back in. Right, questions on the card layouts or the card colors. Again, these features, I'll set up the card layout once and then maybe talk to my team halfway through a project. Otherwise, I leave it, and card colors I personally don't use. And bonus points if anyone gets Kythra's reference there. Looks like Rodney nailed it already. Okay, we spoke about estimation, and now we're going to dig into how boards help handle it. And I'll put another leading question, I guess. I was debating how to ask this. Really need to type faster. All right, what's the best estimation metric? Story points, time, the one your team uses, or dollars? That's pulling back a little. When we talk about estimating, there are some concepts and things we need to just remember and understand. Our estimates are a point in time what we think something will take. So we typically don't want to be changing them as we go. When I look at a work item, when I look at a request, hey, Rob, we need you to live stream from the East Coast, I'm going to say, okay, that might take about 6 hours. I probably don't then want to change that estimate because that's what I thought at the time. I might have a different estimate for a different piece of work, but I'm going to use that data to improve. Really, what I'm looking for with any estimate is consistency. So ideally, my estimate almost matches what it actually takes. But as long as over time I am consistent in estimating the same type of work in the same amount of time or complexity or whatever, that's a win. Because that means I'm able to look at the work and go, it takes about this long. And then we can use that data to improve. So I'm looking for consistency either with myself or with my team, just to ensure I get good data and I can take action on it. And a Big call out, this may or may not show up on the exam, but story points are a measure of relative complexity. Now, what this means is a story point is not worth an hour. A story point is not worth 1 day of work. A story point is not worth 3 tickets. A story point is a story point. And teams will typically sit down at the start of a project and go through all the tasks they have and find the simplest, easiest one that they can find and say that is one point. And then from there, that's their benchmark, their starting point. They compare everything else. Well, we think this one is 5 times as complex. That's worth 5. This one is 12 times as complex. It's worth 12, etc. The disadvantage of story points is they don't carry over between teams. So Rodney's team, the least complex thing might be super complex for my team. And that's fine because that's Rodney's team. So with story points, especially, we're looking for consistency within the team. And if the team changes, the definition of a story point can shift. So just something to keep in mind. Story points are not time. And I'll step off that soapbox. Now, as the board admin or project admin, depending on where we are, we can choose the estimation statistic or method that we use. So we can tell Jira, hey, use story points to estimate, or use time, or use some other field. And I believe it has to be an integer field. But this will impact our reporting. So keep in mind, whatever you select will directly impact the reports that Jira can provide on how your sprints and things are going on. You can change this, and that will update things, and it's configured at the board level. So you can have multiple boards in a project, each one of which uses a different way of estimating. This might drive your team nuts, though. So typically you might want to pick on one or make sure people clearly understand, hey, in our Kanban board, it's hours, and in our Scrum board, it's story points. Now you'll notice there's a rocker in this screenshot for time tracking. You can turn time tracking on or off, and these are called actuals. And I forget if I have a slide on this, so I'll save that for a minute. But keep in mind, estimating is not mandatory. Teams don't have to do this exercise. It can be very useful because over time you'll start to see how well your team is at figuring out how much work there is. But your team might say, you know what, we don't get any value from this. It just wastes time. So you can kind of skip it. And again, it's up to your team. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what works best for you and your group. Now, in a team managed project, we have a little bit less options. It's an optional feature that a project admin can turn on or off. And again, in a team managed project, the project admin is the board admin. There's no separation of that power. And you can use, I definitely have a typo here, story times or time. Story points or time can be used. So you can't pick a custom field. And the nice thing about Jira in this case is if you pick story points and that field doesn't exist in your project, Jira will just add it for you. So you don't have to worry too much. Again, Jira is trying to help you out, make sure you can get up and running. Now you can disable estimation entirely just by turning off the feature in the project. So if your team chooses not to use it, it's very easy to shut off in a team managed project. It's just one click essentially. And I do like how in this feature, it tells you story points estimate complexity, size, and effort, and time uses time. In the company managed side, it's enabled for Scrum boards, and it's a configurable method. So again, you can pick the field you're using to estimate the metric. Tushar is using equating story points to time. Best practice Tushar is not to do that. Instead, just use time, right? Story points, if you're talking to folks who are really using Scrum and Agile, only relate to complexity, size, or effort. It has nothing to do with how long it'll take me to do something. And it's an interesting distinction because a super complex task for me might take a long time, but Rodney could do it very quickly. Just because Rodney knows more, he's a more experienced admin, whatever. So time does not equal a story point in the strict sense of how it's used. And when you see story points in something like the ACA-905 exam, the questions will not be around how much time is it, right? It'll just be around complexity. So please keep that in mind. When we're sitting an exam for something like Atlassian or PMI or whatever, they will have a definition of story points that's very specific, despite how teams happen to use them in reality. Time tracking is another thing we can do, and these are the actuals. So you'll hear me as a project manager say, what's the estimate on this and what are the actuals? Now, the estimate is what we think it will take. Oh, I think it will take me 3 hours to set up my mobile recording rig. The actual is how much time it actually took, 3 hours or 2.5 or 7. And this allows us to compare. So we can say, okay, team, we all said it would take 43 hours to complete this work and it took us 600. What did we miss? What changed? Or the other way around. We all thought it would take 600 hours to do this and it only took 15. Why was it so much easier? Or why did it go so much faster? The goal isn't to like punish a team and say, oh, you're bad at estimating. It's to understand, okay, we understood one thing at the time, and now we understand something different, and it took more or less time. Jira has a number of built-in reports that help with this. There are just straight up time tracking reports. Many teams I've worked with also use external tools like EasyBI or something to help with this, but we have to be capturing this information in Jira for this to work. And this is where, for me, things tend to break down, just getting the people I work with to actually put in their time. Uh, so this is another feature that we have to work with our teams and get their buy-in and help make sure they understand the importance of using them. Because it is one more thing that our teams have to do, go click a button, type in some hours. I have to do this currently in my work. It's mildly annoying. Now that I've been doing it for a few months, it's not too bad. Now, in the company managed project, this can be turned on and off. There's just a rocker switch on the bottom of the estimations tab. Keep in mind a Jira admin has to enable this. So it's possible in your instance that this has been disabled. So if you're unable to change this, you're under some error, you should talk to your Jira admin. And I believe project admins control this in company managed projects, not board admins. So just a heads up, if you're a board admin and you can't get time tracking to work, you might have to go hunt down a project admin for help, who might have to go hunt down a Jira admin for help. Typically in environments I work in, this is all turned on, so I don't have to worry about this. I can just make it work. I like Kyther's example of story points. Draw a horse standing on one foot while juggling frogs might be one story point for her, but 3 or 5 for Rob. I mean, I could do it very poorly, Kythra. Even if it's 5 times as, it's probably more than 5, honestly. I'm a terrible at drawing. Now, there are different fields that track time information in Jira. The first is the original estimate, and this is how many hours we think something will take. It is possible to use story points and hours to estimate. I would hesitate to do that and just caution teams to pick one or the other. Um, but you can say, hey, I originally think this will take 1 hour to do. Great, that's a good number. That's something you can compare against later. Next, you have the time spent. How much time have you actually spent against this? Now, the time spent will just build up until you're done with the thing. So this can exceed the estimate. Jira's not going to stop you. Jira's not going to tell you, oh, you've gone over your estimate. You're not allowed to put on more time. It's just going to keep collecting whatever you throw on it. And you can exceed that estimate, and you can also change how much time is remaining. So I'll show this live in a moment, but we have three data points: original estimate, time spent, and time remaining. So as you're working on the task, you might realize, ooh, we missed something. It's more complex than I thought. I can draw a horse, but I can't draw a horse juggling. That's going to take another extra 2 hours to figure out. Again, this must be enabled at the site level, so it's possible time tracking is turned off. And the field also has to be visible. So these are two things that we as board admins cannot control. If we can't get time tracking to work, we might have to go to our Jira admin and say, hey, help me out here. Is the time tracking field enabled? And is the time tracking field visible for my project? And they should be able to help out and at least troubleshoot why does it not exist. All right, folks, a quick teleport break. I'm going to drink some coffee and just remind all of you wonderful people, hit the like button if you like this. It's the thumbs up at the bottom. And also check out the QR codes. If you are looking for ways to help support me and I'm doing this professionally now, I would love your support so I can keep doing this. You can become a channel member. There's a link right there. You can talk to my friend Chad, who's in the chat. Or check out my learning site, just learn.heen.tech, which is where I will be publishing videos like this, or full-length learning courses around topics like this. And Rodney, if you could drop that Discord link again, my friend, I would really appreciate that. Okay, back to our board and estimation settings. I'll start in a company managed project because that's where we are. Chad heard his name. And under the estimation menu. Now, reading about Atlassian has a lot of links in its systems, like read about these metrics. What are they? I review this every once in a while just for a reminder. So it's always a good idea to pop these sidebars open and just see what Atlassian has to say about them. Some of it might be useful, some of it might be less than useful, but it's nice to have it there. This middle box is where we pick what the estimation method is. Now you'll notice there's a bunch of interesting things in here. Story points, our stereotypical complexity, our original time estimate. So again, we can take that time estimate and use whatever we thought at the start. And this is where we don't want the estimates to change. We think at this point in time it will take this long. We then want to compare that to how long it actually took, just to see how good are we at estimating, how can we improve. But we have other things like the number of linked items. I personally have never used that one. I personally can't figure out a use case for the number of estimated linked items to help me, but it's something we can do. The number of comments on a work item, excuse me, would be interesting, or cost. So essentially we get any numerical value. Excuse me. I'm going to put this back to story points just so I don't break my reporting or anything. And then under this, I can turn time tracking on and off. So at the board level, I can flip it off. I might say, hey, for this board, I don't need to use it. And this board, I do. Typically, I want to be consistent. So across the projects I work on, I will either use time tracking or I will not. I don't want to make it too complex and have teams have to remember, well, on this board we do it, and on that board we don't. I'm just typically going to ask teams, hey, please just do it. I'm quickly going to show how we do this in a team-managed project. And again, we have to be the project admin here because it is slightly different. It's found under Features on the left-hand menu. And then down near the bottom of the Planning section, I have Estimation. And again, here I only get two options, Story Points and Time. And I can click the rocker to flip it off, or just select which one I want to use. So super easy with the team managed project, which is nice for the team managed project admins. Thank you, Rodney. And it looks like most of us think that the best estimation metric is the one our team uses. That's what I typically agree with in terms of estimating. Some environments may force a specific one if across the whole company, someone has decided we're only using story points to standardize it. So sometimes we get stuck having to use a certain type just because our senior director or our VP or our CEO or whoever decides this one is the one we're going to use. Now I'm going to pop open this work item. Mobile 20. And up in the top, I've got my story points field. It's just a numeric field. Many teams will use, it's called the Fibonacci sequence. And it's just a sequence of numbers to give gaps between story points. I won't dig too deep into it, but the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. You basically add the previous two numbers to get the next one. And this helps teams avoid fighting over, is it a 5 or a 6? Well, it doesn't really matter because it's relative complexity. Is it a 3 or a 5? Is it a 5 or an 8 or a 13? So you might see gaps in story point numbers, totally fine. What we're looking for, again, with the estimates is that people are consistent. Something that is a 2 will always be a 2. My time tracking fields show up down at the bottom under more fields, and I've got my original estimate, which might be 6 hours, 6H. Minutes would be minutes, so 1M is 1 minute, and days are D, 1D for 1 day. And that's consistent across Jira. So in a JQL, a JQuil search, 60M, 60 minutes is the same as in time tracking. You'll notice as soon as I did that, I now have a bar for time tracking, and it's just saying how much time is remaining in the original estimate or time left. For log time, I always forget the shortcut. I'm quickly going to look it up. I can just hit Q on my keyboard. There we go. And that trick I did was the command palette, hitting Command K or Control K and just searching for an action. Here, I would put in how much time is left. or how much have I completed, maybe 30 minutes of work. And then it's going to just tell me, hey, your original estimate was 6 hours. That means there's 5.5 hours left. And you've logged 30 minutes of 6 hours. Logging our actuals should be specific, maybe round it to the nearest 15 minutes. But we want to make sure that this data is accurate. So when we go back and look at it, we truly know how our team is doing, and we can truly dig into how can the team improve. As we go, we might realize, hey, I put in 4 hours of work, and instead of 1.5 hours left, maybe there's 2.5. And this will change the bar. It's telling me we've added 1 hour to that original estimate. So again, I can exceed it. I can change how much time is left, but I shouldn't change that original estimate. I should always remember, hey, it's been 6 hours. Now, as we go, all of this information will end up in our reports. So I'm just going to go back to my board. And I'm looking for, there it is, right in the middle, my reports tab. These are all the out-of-the-box reports. Your team, again, may have different marketplace apps, add-ons, different tools that help do reporting. So the exact report you use can differ. There are a couple that you'll see, particularly on the exam, and a couple you should be aware of. Your burn down and burn up charts will keep track of sprints. I don't think I have good data in here. And maybe if I go back, good, I have a section on reports. So I'll show some of these slides instead of showing you just ugly reports in Jira. Depending on your configuration and the type of project you're in, you might see more or less reports. And some reports may or may not be useful. Some reports are typically only used by certain types of teams. For example, a burn down or burn up chart, the two that I mentioned, are only really going to be used by a Scrum team because it relates to story points. And a velocity chart, probably only used by a Scrum team because it deals with story points, and that's who uses story points. Your exact team's use may differ, but keep in mind some of these reports are tailored or designed or intended just for specific uses and specific types of work. This looks much better. The burn down chart is kind of what it sounds like. You want to burn down all the work. What it does is it takes the estimate, in this case, story points. We started with about 40, and it's showing me every time a work item is completed, those story points getting deducted from the remainder. So over time, we can expect it to reach 0, because ideally by the end of that sprint, we've completed everything. Now, in this particular burn down chart, you see some spikes. It goes up. This means that the scope or the number of story points changed. So here, no work was completed, and then a work item was added, or a story point was increased. These are indications that we misestimated, we forgot something. Ideally, this doesn't happen. So it's a good visual indication of, hey, something changed. Actually, let me just ask this question. Burn down charts. Do you use burn down charts? There is another version of this called a burn up chart. It's the same thing, but in reverse. You start at 0, and as you complete story points, it increases up to whenever you're done. The sprint report includes a burn down chart, but also includes changes to scope. So this is the one that I use a lot because it will tell me what's been completed, what isn't completed, but also what has been added or removed. So if someone goes in and adds a work item to your sprint, which again, ideally doesn't happen, this report will tell you. So it's a great way to keep an eye on how is it shifting? Where do I, as the project manager, have to be aware of changes in order to support my team? Because again, ideally at the start of the sprint, we've locked in our work and that doesn't change. Our team can just focus on what they agreed to. So this report is very granular and it's a good thing to review in a sprint review or a retrospective meeting ceremony. I forget what they're calling them now. Just to make sure, hey, the team is locked in the sprint and able to focus on their work. But the sprint report is one I use quite a bit. And then our old friend, the velocity chart. And this again relates just to Scrum, but velocity refers to a team's ability to sustain an amount of work. Now these will start at 0, and after every sprint, Jira will calculate how many story points started and how many story points did you complete. In a perfect world, those two bars are the same height. The gray bar and the green bar are identical, but you'll see some variation. In this middle sprint, they committed to more work than they finished. Maybe someone was on vacation. Maybe someone got sick. Who knows? So any difference in these I would want to look at. But really what I'm looking for is over time, it stabilizes. The team is doing about 100 story points every sprint. Because that tells me that, hey, I can give them about 100 story points of work and they can complete that every 2 weeks or every week. So it's a great way to look back and say, how much have you done? That's how much I can expect you to continue doing. But remember, story points are not time, um, according to the definition, and story points are unique for every team. So because Rodney's team can do 100 story points doesn't mean mine can do 100 story points. My team might only do 80 or 10 or 4,000, any number. A quick look at those reports. Again, these will all look bad because my demo environment just has ugly, hideous data. So let me just go back to reports. But please take a look at these reports. It's important for us as admins just to become a bit familiar with them. And there are a lot in here that can be useful. There are also a lot in here that are just going to confuse the heck out of you unless they're used as intended. So if something in here looks interesting, it's also worth Googling something like Jira control chart. Because if you just look at this, it can be woo. I think I know what these things are supposed to look like. And this looks nothing like that. Um, Especially because of the elapsed days. Oh, wow. I'm going to get rid of this because it's just so bad. Um, Now, Atlassian is pretty good about including information about how to read charts and including hyperlinks out to other information. So it's also a good way to learn how to use these is to dig in and just start clicking around in Google and see what you can find. All right, folks, that was all on estimation and adherence. What questions do you all have that I haven't been able to answer? Please drop them in the chat for me. And while you're doing that, please hit the like button real quick. About 20 folks, 8 likes. Absolutely love that. Why we can't have nice things. Otherwise, folks, we have one more session next week that will be a review. That'll be next Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific. We're going to go over as much of this as we can and also talk about how to take the exam. How do you sign up for it? How do you do things like get a voucher? What is the exam like? But want to make sure, again, that these provide value to all of you. So I'll drop that a couple links in the chat. The first one is just feedback on how the sessions are going and also your ideas on what should be next. Which ACA should we tackle after the 905? I think there's 9 total at this point, and we've done, I want to say 5 of them. So there are some more good candidates for us to tackle together. Rodney dropped our Discord link. Please jump in there for continued chat and community, not just for certifications, but for any Atlassian or kind of tech topic. A lot of great people in there. I'm learning a ton about APIs from my friend Liz. So it's definitely worth it. You might need a personal account to jump in, though, depending on how your work blocks things. Um, so, yeah. I also hope to have a full-length course on the ACA 905 ready, I want to say by next session. If you want to get proactive updates on it, um, just fill out the second form. And that will also, I'll include a link once it's done to 2 versions of it. One will be cheaper, one will be slightly more expensive. The more expensive one will include an exam voucher to give you an opportunity to earn the AC 905 without having to shell out $100. Anyway, folks, thank you all for joining me. I appreciate you being in here. Please check out my learning courses. I have to type down everything because I don't have my fun little pad thingy. Keep learning, keep engaging, and get hands-on. Especially if you want to sit this exam, you're going to kind of need to know where the buttons are and what happens when you push them. So just go have some fun breaking a board and see what happens. I do want to thank you for learning with me. I appreciate this quite a bit. Thank you for putting up with the new location and the subpar audio, but hopefully you found it useful. So I'll leave the chat open for just a couple minutes. I'll drop one last poll. Was this a useful session? I really hope it was, but if not, please tell me how it could have been better. And have a great Friday and a great weekend wherever you happen to be. Oh, thank you, Chad. I will be going to the Team Atlassian conference in Barcelona. That's not until next month, though. Early next month. It's only 3.5 weeks away. Wow. But I'm looking forward to that. I'll also be at the conference in the end of October down in somewhere near LA. Southern California is all the same to me, but I'll be speaking at that conference, the Builders Conference, I think it is, on the Thursday. Dom, thank you so much. It's good to see you again. Otherwise, folks, have a great day. Hope to see you in Discord and in the review session next week.